Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know I set the live to start at 1:15, but it's FOMC day, man. The biggest day for the US markets, that's one thing for sure. NASDAQ, all-time highs. S&P, all-time highs. Nvidia, $5 trillion market cap. I know you heard that somewhere before. $200, tapped that yesterday. Google, Microsoft. Oh, it's their day today as well. It's the biggest day for the markets. Word on the street is we're going to get a rate cut. $1.5 trillion back into the printer. Thank you very much, Mr. Jerome Powell. You can see him on the thumbnail rocking the old Lacoste. That's my boy, you know. He came and said, like, you know what, T, man, let's just get you this picture. I know you've been waiting for a long time. I'm like, you're looking kind of buff, bro, man. You've been pumping those weights, or is it because all that fiat you're carrying and stacking it to the United States debt? Anyways, some guys are calling for the idea that maybe the Fed might not cut. Do you understand what catastrophe could unfold if the Fed were to just pivot and just be like, we're not cutting? Why aren't you cutting, pal? Oh, we don't know what the level is for the employment market. We don't know where we are really with inflation, and we're not going to get another reading this month from inflation because the US government shutdown is kicking. Like, I mean, it's wild. Let's be honest. How many of you are buying these movements to the upside? I just want to know, like, because Warren's not buying, like Buffett is not buying any stock right now. And I'm going to be giving you a breakdown on what we can expect today. But before I do that, today is the FOMC. And because of daylight saving and what have you, the UK has effectively had the clocks come back a little bit. So that means we'll be going live at 6 p.m. UK time. Well, that's the start of the FOMC, but I will be live before that. Okay, so make sure that you're hitting the notification bell because some of you might not get that notification. I don't know why, but just keep an eye out from 5:30 UK time. That's when I'll be getting the live ready for us to get into this FOMC press conference, which will be aired 30 minutes after the federal funds rate is released. They are keeping it at a 25 basis point cut. So I don't think they would rock the markets. We've already got some idea about Trump and China. Even though they are going to be meeting this week, there is the possibility that there could be some hostility in regards to trade. It all depends on what they actually discuss and agree with. We've had this story about a 20% tariff on fentanyl. So that's something, but I think the market wants more. But what about crypto? Well, we're going to dive into it all today, guys. Keep it short and sweet for you. Welcome you into the open of the market. And then, of course, get ready for the FOMC later on. So if you are new, check the TV. It says like and subscribe. Subscribing is free to do. Costs you nothing other than a couple of reps on the thing. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it, guys. But let's get with the program, gang. Here we go. So Nvidia has just had a massive boost only because China is considering to cut off this idea of limiting the Blackwell sales, okay, or the Blackwell computer. So that is good news for Nvidia. Why? Because without those, they'd be missing out on roughly around $5 to $6 billion worth of revenue, which is not going to be welcomed by most investors. But now it looks like that could be coming back. So we know that revenues for Nvidia are going to be doing well. And that was the only thing that was preventing Nvidia from truly continuing to the upside. But it seems as though the narrative has come back into it and investors are happy with that. Quickly going over into Nvidia right now to put it into perspective. We've got the story here. As you can see, it closed off at $201, $5 trillion market cap. Well, that's just a little bit more now because it's currently trading at $208 a share. And what's even more interesting is a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about the City Revisions Index. Do you understand why this chart is important? Let me show you. In front of you is the City Earnings Revision Index. Prior to this week and last week, when we were talking about this couple of weeks ago, there wasn't that many revisions coming into play. When I say revisions, it means are they upgrading stock price targets or are they downgrading them? And you can see here at the top side of this zone, you can see the blue bars. Well, if it's trading above zero, it means that there are revisions favoring upside revisions in stock prices. So UBS has come out and said that they're changing their price target of Nvidia from 203 to around 235. Ladies and gentlemen, Nvidia is going to hit a $6 trillion market cap. Nvidia's market cap is 1 day of turnover in the Forex markets. Do you understand what that is? That is huge. That clearly demonstrates that AI is what is fueling this move to the upside. Okay? So with the revisions coming into play, it's now coming into the idea that maybe the fundamentals of stock companies are actually backing the idea of revisions. So how far will it go? When is this market going to be like, nope, we're going to pull back? I mean, just let me just show you. NASDAQ has defied everything. NASDAQ has defined the concept of parabolic. This is parabolic, ladies and gentlemen. Just zoom out and just look at this. Everyone was waiting for this in cryptocurrency. Do this madness, and then it shoots up. We have seen a little bit of a disconnect with the stock market and cryptocurrency going over into Bitcoin. You can see Bitcoin is just consolidating. It's not really doing too much. We got some offers coming into play with Bitcoin. I mean, you can see that they're trying to mark up, but there's not really that much offers coming in. Look, the book is very, very light on Bitcoin. It's like no one's stepping in. And this is proof right now that people are on the sidelines. And I've always said this, that Bitcoin would be the true asset, because if those guys aren't going into Bitcoin to take on risk, then investors are sat on the sidelines and they're probably going elsewhere. They might just be going over to the stock market because traditionally that's what legacy markets do. When there is an interest rate cut, it means money is going to be cheaper. So that logic says we anticipate businesses to benefit from that. But have you heard about the 1929 stock market crash? You remember that? We talk about that quite a bit. Well, subprime mortgage crisis is what I talk about, but the 1929 crash is something you really need to pay attention to. You heard about this. This dude, Andrew Sorkin, opens the stock market yesterday with the promotion of his book, 1929. He went on an interview on 60 Seconds, and he was talking about what actually happened at that time in 1929. At the time of the crash, our boy Jesse Livermore was short on the banks. They even contacted him and said, can you please stop shorting the marketplace? That's the boy. Now, at the time of the crash, stock market was up 91%. Okay. It's this year alone, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, wait, let's just go into it. Hold on a second. Let's just go back and let's take the start of the year. All right. Let's just hold on. It's just very, very light. The start of the year will put us right here. Okay. Sorry. Start of 2025. There we are. Right. Just here. There we go. Just there. That's where we are. Start of the year in essence. Okay. Near in this range. Rip. Off she goes. The stock market has a 100% success rate at surviving crashes, okay? We haven't had a bear market. This right here was just a consolidation, and that was in 2022, all right? But this movement to the upside is wild, but revisions are coming into play, okay? They are upgrading price targets, so everyone is jumping in. But this guy right here talking about the stock market crashing on the eve before the FOMC, people are saying, oh my God, the market, plan accordingly. There's a lot of scaremongering. The only event that would cause the market to crash to the equivalent of 1929 would be if the Federal Reserve tonight turns around and says, no cuts. We're not going to do anything. We're going to stay put and we're going to wait until we get all the data. That would rock the markets. It would bring a crash, because he does say in his interview that the markets will crash, but he don't know when. And that's the story right now. So just take it with a pinch of salt. All right. The fact that he's opened up the stock market on the promotion of his book. This guy, Andrew Sorkin, you'll see him he's been interviewed very big names in the space. He's a finance guy. He's been in the game for over 2 decades. He knows what he's talking about, but he's come out with this book talking about 1929, And he's saying it whilst the stock market is at all-time highs. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that. It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting, and it's wonderful to look at. Quickly going over into the justification of it, you can see China's purchased 180,000 tons of US soybeans. Trump has also got Japan to do the same thing, okay? So it looks like things are looking good for the marketplace in terms of trade, all right? Massive. So let's just break it down for a second to justify the idea of why everything's going up. Is it going up on volume? Hold on a second. Let's just go and have a look at that, okay? I just want to address this. Some dude in the comment section says, yeah, your USA rare earth hasn't really been doing too much. Yeah, well, you know, you're not been really great with your calls on that. Well, hold on a second, my bro, okay? They've got an earnings per share due in 8 days' time, and media has been airing the partnerships that are coming into play with rare earth metals, given that that's the deciding factor for whether Trump or China are going to have an issue when it comes to trade. This company is already up 2% in pre-markets. Give it a sec, bro. Earnings per share due in 8 days' time ain't going to be doing anything wild until that. So given that management holds 36% of the stock, if you want to talk about scarcity, I mean, you understand Bitcoin, there's only 21 million, but stock, media, rare earth story, the only real company that you can really invest in. I mean, come on, bro. Give it a few minutes. It will go up. Don't worry about that. But anyways, going into the stock market, is the volume there? Yes, it is. The volume is there and it's rising. That's the thing. The volume is rising as the highs are being set. Okay? And it's all rising off the back of Nvidia and its business happy days with the Blackwell. But that was just earlier on. Okay? What about before? Microsoft and OpenAI with their $135 billion expansion that they're going to be going into. Then you got OpenAI with AMD. It's just AI. Okay? They're calling it a bubble, but the money is going into it. And when you invest money, you're going to get a return. But let me explain something to you. Last night, when I was doing my projections for the members, I did say to them that we're not talking about consumers here. When you hear about all these deals that are coming into play with the tech market, it's not we're going to be offering you a new product that's going to make it easier for you to wipe your backside, and we need the masses to just go out and buy it, something that you can get on a Black Friday sale. No. This is so that corporate America can do things efficiently. So when you're getting into bed with OpenAI and AMD, well, OpenAI is like, well, we want 15,000 of these chips. And AMD's like, no problem. I'm going to take that. I mean, I'm a consumer of Nvidia. I got one of their graphics cards. But it's bigger than that. This rally to the upside in the stock market is investors' expectations that investments that are being done by corporate America are going to be purchased by corporate America. It's business to business. We want data centers. Yeah, there's all this power that needs to be consumed to create these data centers and make them run efficiently so that the power can rely and provide the intelligence for AI. Because without the power, you don't have the intelligence, and that's the fact. Okay? It's all done on these companies spending money. And if earnings are showing us that everything's all good, and then in liquidity is coming in from the consumer because they're getting price revisions to the upside, and everyone doesn't want to miss out on the opportunity, fundamentally, the stock market can crash, but these tech companies are stacked with cash. And they're just going to throw it at each other. And it's just going to end up becoming a great EPS, earnings per share, for anyone that's invested in these companies. Okay? You've got to really look at it on the bigger scale. We're not talking about services that are being provided for the consumer. Yes. I mean, how many of you are going to sit and have a coffee with your friends and be like, yo, man, you see that data center? Yeah. The mainframe computer that Amazon is using to do business with OpenAI, or Microsoft is using to go with OpenAI, and they're currently offering me the ability to rent it out, to borrow it. How much is that? It's about 15 million. Yeah, I might think about it. I'll wait to see. I'll go and buy the Mrs. a Birkin bag instead. It might be a little bit. Nah, that's not the conversation that's being had. Not at all. That's what's making this move happen. It's the companies, it's corporate America fueling this. And now you're going to get a rate cut, so it's now going to be cheaper to borrow money. We know they're not borrowing money because no one's going into the bonds. They're not doing it. They're just using their own cash. They're all going into corporate bonds. America is buying America, basically, okay? And that's what we've got to get into our minds. There's no product. Go out and have a look. We're not talking about any drones that are being sold, all right? Or this new fantastic hair product that's causing this rally to the upside. It's these companies that are working with each other and distributing the cash, and the earnings per share is just going to be the benefit of it. That's all it is. That's what's fueling this movement to the upside. Because if it was truly consumerism, Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen, would be making a significant move to the upside. That's the fact. Investors are sticking to the legacy markets. That's why Bitcoin's not pumping the way it should be, because it is deemed as a high-risk asset. Now, before you're like, oh, Tina, you're saying Bitcoin's fudding out, and please cut the crap, man. I'm giving you the reality of what investors are doing. You want the proof of whether investors are in Bitcoin or not. Where's NASDAQ? Where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin's just sat there doing nothing, but it's doing good. Relative. Hasn't taken its all-time high yet, but it's doing fantastic. It's sustaining itself. Consolidation, then it might do a little bit of a move up, okay? But when Bitcoin does not reflect what NASDAQ's doing, tells you investors are waiting to really go into high risk, because Bitcoin is a high-risk asset. It is. And that is evident with the fact that for the last 5-6 days, even at the start of the week, NASDAQ has just said, no, thank you, not interested. I'm just going up and up and up. Investors are in the legacy markets, ladies and gentlemen. They're not in the crypto markets, okay? And that's the truth. That is clear as day, because the macros align up to it, okay? That's where we are with the market. As long as this happens, it's just going to keep going. What event would lead to a crash? If money is being spent and it's being put to work, only an algorithm would cause it, in my opinion. A glitch, a problem. All right? Because the way things are going, this thing isn't stopping, man. I mean, your value of your dollar itself is just dog. It's at 98, but it's consolidating. And when it consolidates, that's when I get a little bit concerned. It needs to trend, not consolidate, because it means that players are actually positioning themselves somewhere. All right? Don't sleep on the dollar. Don't sleep on the dollar. That's all I'm saying to you. Okay, so looking at Bitcoin, quickly going into a little bit more information about Bitcoin. Going into the order flow, we're starting to see some interesting behavior around open interest. First things first, open interest has managed to come up. If you look at this purple line here, it's come up, but it's not gone it's not far up yet. I want to really see open interest climbing, okay? But we're not really seeing it just yet. From a different perspective, we've got this chart right here, which shows us that there is big support inside of this range between 112,800 and then 111,743, okay? Going into the liquidations heat map, where's the money, all right? Or the money that's resting. And you can see that we've got two areas. You've got this area down here of 111,000. You've got this area up here around 117,000. Okay. Bitcoin at price right now is currently around 111. Where is it? 113,000. So you've got a 4K move up and potentially a free 4K move to the downside in principle if they do eat the liquidity. Okay. But Bitcoin has been going sideways, not really giving us direction. After tonight, we will get the direction. We will know where to go. So once FOMC is complete, you're going to then start seeing Bitcoin trending. You're going to end up getting days like this where you see a nice climb up and then a nice drop down, a nice climb up. It's all going to be before FOMC. Well, after FOMC. And that's something you've got to take into consideration. Now, going into this evening, the word on the street is that Bank of Japan going into tomorrow, tonight, okay, it's tentative, which means that it could be aired at any moment. It's usually around 3-4 o'clock in the morning UK time. So they're going to be holding on their interest rates. But if they do give a hawkish sentiment, okay, that is going to impact the marketplace. So tonight, be very careful. Wait a second. Even more not concerning, but just be even more careful. Tonight, no. We don't want you to have no maintenance. Tonight at the close, we're going to have Microsoft declaring their earnings and Google and Meta. And this is after the FOMC. So 6 p.m. UK time is when the FOMC comes out. An hour and a half later, it finishes. And then an hour after or so, we're going to see the earnings. Okay. Just keep an eye out, because tonight in the Asian session, that's where, in my opinion, you're going to see wicked movements. It's going to be great. It really is. And then you go into the next day, you've got Apple and Amazon, and they are all at all-time highs. It is frightening. Just quickly go over and a look at them all. Okay, so firstly, Nvidia at all-time highs. Microsoft near enough the all-time highs. Come back into the red vector candle recovery. Has Tesla recovered that vector yet? Yes, it has. So if you guys managed to exploit that, happy days. They recovered that red vector. I would expect Tesla to try and take another all-time high. Well, yeah, it's $488, but okay, then it's got a little bit of work to do, but nonetheless. Amazon currently close towards the all-time highs over here. Not so much. No, yeah. So their all-time highs all the way at $242. I would expect them to try and climb up. But if the only asset that's moving up right now at all-time highs is Nvidia, we really need to see the backing of other stocks to do the same thing, okay? Google, killing it, okay? And that is gapping down a little bit at the open, but that's nothing to be worried about. And Meta itself currently at all-time highs, not at all-time highs, but close towards the all-time highs. Will Meta break the $1,000 mark? Most definitely, in my opinion. And then Apple is just trading higher. It's just doing great. Now, these are the Mag 7. The Mag 7 is sustaining this all, okay? But don't just dive into the Mag 7. They are overly priced, because that's exactly what this Andrew Sorkin has said. Everything is so overpriced, it hurts. So at what point does the market then say, you know what, we need to consolidate, we need to pull back, okay? What are they doing with the money? And clear as day, they're not going into the bonds as much, even though bonds are trading at 102. That's good news, okay? But the yields are trading high, okay? And the NASDAQ is trading higher. The volatility index tells us no one's bothered. No one is concerned. But keep an eye out, because we've got events. This right here is a vector candle on the 1 hour time frame. Let's put it into perspective. It's a vector block. No, it's on the daily. What am I doing? Let's go over to it right now. Daily candle. Look, there's a red vector candle. It will come back into it. Problem is what event is going to cause that? Because I actually think that there are actually guys that are betting for the volatility index to shoot above 50. All right. There is a trader called the 50-cent trader that's put a $2.5 million bet that the volatility index is going to go above 100 again, or back to 180. Do you understand what will have to happen for that? Someone in Congress will have to pass out or be unalived. Okay. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Or an attempt. Right? A bank would have to collapse. BlackRock would have to collapse. And they manage $12.5 trillion. The printer has to go into default. It doesn't work anymore. Or someone has to go to war and hit a nation with a very, very big rocket. And that's not going to the moon. That's aiming at civilians. Those wild events would send the VIX to 180. The last time it went to 100 was COVID. Okay? So besides all those events, the likeliness of them happening, very, very small. Very small. So what could the next event be? The only real next event would be if China and US talks break down. We're then back to what we were before. And that would at least move the VIX up to around 30, in my opinion, because that's what happened over here when Trump said that he was going to put on a tariff, 100% tariffs on China. And it went up to 24. So there is an event pending because investors have to get into the idea of hedging. There's no smooth sailing. Could it be today? Could Powell say, we're not going to give you another rate cut in December, we're just going to hold? That would then send the VIX up, in my opinion, quite frankly. Questions. What time are we on? Market opens in 2 minutes' time. Here we go. Tino, don't think USA Rare Earth might go to around $15, which is 50% of the previous monthly green vector. Maybe, maybe not. But it's a stock. It's been influenced by a lot of news plays because of all the partnerships that are coming. Listen, all these partnerships that are coming into play with the stock market, they've declared them, people have reacted, and then we're going to wait for the next quarter to see what they mean. That's why, in my opinion, what I think people should be doing is looking and paying attention to all semiconductor stocks, okay? Look at all the stocks that are at all-time highs, okay? Wait for them to pull back at around 10 to 15%, depending on the actual asset, because the cost is going to be a big factor on whether you get a big pullback or not, okay? Then as we get into the final quarter of the year, what validates a Santa rally? When you get towards the end of the year, you're sat with all this cash. Well, Mr. Taxman's going to be like, well, what are we doing here? I want to tax that. I want to tax that. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Forget that. Let's start buying. Let's start putting some money to work. OpenAI, this company, that partnership, this data center, that data center. Rush, rush, rush. Build, build, build. Spend, spend, spend to avoid having to pay TAX. It's all happening towards the back end of the year, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Then we get into the start of a new year. Doesn't it not make sense? What's Trump saying? Oh, nothing. Doesn't the logic make sense? That's my view on things. Tina, you're going to jump on the pump the Bitcoin track with Jason Casper. What? There's a track. Casper would have to invite me for that. I would nah, man. What's this? Price to earnings ratio. Imagine being new to the markets. I'm faced. Well, hold on a sec. I want to know what this guy is saying. What just picked up? Oh, okay. Wisdom, they'll either give up forever and hate the market or turn out to be some of the best traders out there. Black Swan, yeah, but this dude could also be a clown. I could be a clown. Or are you talking about me? Couldn't tell, actually. I don't know what the conversation is. Come on, give me something. Some guys are talking about a Black Swan event next year. That's a joke. Because the Black Swan event is not an event that you actually can predict. It just happens. Okay? If you want to know when a Black Swan could happen, well, there is no knowing when. Okay? Let's just go back to when the USD Swiss Forex pair, okay? When that dropped on a Sunday night, it sank nearly 300 points, like 300 pips, all right? Because the Bank of Switzerland were like, no, we're not going to increase the interest rate. We're going to keep it as is. They did the complete opposite of what investors expected, okay? So that ended up sending the USD Swiss down and the value of the Swiss staying higher because they didn't change the rates. Tina, can you check the Bitcoin monthly candle? Well, the monthly candle on Bitcoin is really great. It just shows you that this 1 month candle has killed dreams and made dreams come true. Okay. And that is just wild how it's just done both ranges. This is why investors don't really get into crypto and why they're shaken out so soon as well because of this. Okay. Now take the monthly candle of Bitcoin and compare it out to what the Nasdaq's done. That is sustainable. Yeah. You got one mad candle, which was news events, Trump, trade, okay? Then you go over to Bitcoin. It's a nightmare. Wick. Investors in the legacy markets want sustainability. That's why $7.5 trillion are still sat in money markets, all right? And they're witnessing this move to the upside. And now it's got to the point where they're missing out. But then at the same time, stocks to bonds ratio is overly valued, okay? So overvalued, but that doesn't stop money being spent. Our perception of what is valuable and what isn't is completely different to the next man. You look at Nvidia and you think to yourself, hold on a second, man, this stock is right now trading at $209 a share, okay? It's doing really well. It's at all-time highs. Happy days, all right? I might look at this and think, wow, that is really good. It could be going to around 350. But this is where they were saying that the stock market or Nvidia was overvalued, okay? They said that the stock market was overvalued here. They said it was here. They said it was here. They said it was relatively still here. They said it was here. They said it was here. And before these last 3-4 days of movement upwards, the revisions on the Citigroup thing have gone up from 77 to 80 now. Okay. So it's the earnings per share, the increasing of, and the revisions themselves have increased. Okay. So it's just, for me, it's, if you are holding stock, guys, all right, to put it into perspective, if you are holding stock, then taking something off the table would be a good move, okay? Because you've got to position yourself. This is why it's so important that you invest in or explore investment portfolio management, because the first thing it's going to teach you is diversification. That's why you can hold a number of stocks in your portfolio and you can see a big red down day and still be up. Because when you see that happening in your portfolio, it means you're positioning yourself well with what you're buying. Because naturally, when the stock market drops, investors need to go elsewhere. And then if you're holding onto those stocks like aerospace, defense, and medical, then you're going to see a benefit. Now, if you are in just crypto market down, everything's down. All right? We're not in that era anymore, I don't think. Really don't think. And that's why everyone's like, altcoins. Give me what you got on your altcoins, Tino. Okay, I'll show you the altcoins. Okay, where are we at right now? You got ZEC smashing it. Okay, so if you've seen that movement to the upside on ZEC, that is $346 a coin. That ain't no altcoin. That's not an altcoin. That is a very goodly priced altcoin. Okay, value is there, and it's proof with the price of it. Then you've got Zen, $12, relatively decent priced altcoin, okay? 0.06, graph, I mean, it's, everyone's asking, when's it going to pump? When's it going to go back? When is it going to go back? Well, when it does go back, do something about it, okay? Anytime you get these movements on altcoins, guys, do something. Take the money. All right? Because when everything is collapsing, all right, and you see those posts from guys that are like, altcoins are 90% down, you'll be doing yourself a massive favor, or, you know, your future family will be thanking you. That's just such a shocking thing to say to people, because then they go into it, and what was 90% down ends up becoming less and less. It's like 100% down. It just goes into drawdown even more and more and more. And you're like, for God's sake, man. That guy said 90% down. You've got to be careful. Any movement that you get, and when you see fast movements occurring in altcoins, do something. Take some profits out of it, okay? Just be careful with it all. Yeah, we all want the moonshot. You want moonshot? Look at NASDAQ. You know? That's something you've got to take into consideration, guys. Tino, if we see a spelling error in your system, is that something you want to know about, or is it a mind your own business thing? Where's the spelling error? Tino, are you paying attention to strategy earnings call this week, or are you done with that dog water stock? Look, earnings for strategy itself, okay? Look, strategy. What's their earnings? Their earnings per share in 2026 is minus 34 cents. So for every share that you hold, you are losing 34 cents, which ain't bad. Okay, it's not bad. Okay, but one of the largest holders of Bitcoin, funds are playing 1,479. Funds are playing this stock. Management only holds 1% of it. Banks hold 1% of it. And funds hold 31% of it. Currently $77.49 billion as a stock market, as a stock itself. Earnings per share and relative strength rating is rolling over. So no one's really buying it. And they declare their earnings tomorrow, according to this. If they don't do good, which I don't think they will, okay? They'll tell us about their yield on Bitcoin, okay? But their earnings have been terrible. They were losing money on earnings on March 31st, 2025 of minus 1,892, and their sales were minus 4%. I mean, that's a good stock. I'd buy into that stock. Why would you buy into it? Well, it's got minus 1,892% on its earnings. Don't you think that is good? They're losing money, man. That's brilliant, isn't it? Huh? Tina, you being serious? Well, yeah. Oh, don't you know how much Bitcoin they hold? And fuck the Bitcoin. How much am I going to earn on holding this share? Well, I mean, you held the stock for a year, you would lose 34 cents on every dollar that you're holding with this stock. Yeah, but the whole Bitcoin, bro, man. Come on. Bitcoin to the moon. Yeah, all right, cool, bro. But you want me to pay $284 for this stock that fundamentally, as a stock, is just losing money. And it's basically just relying on the hope that Bitcoin accumulation, generating them a yield of X amount. I think it's like $5-6 billion of yield. I mean, you might hold MicroStrategy stock and relate the idea that MicroStrategy goes up with Bitcoin, okay? But MicroStrategy's got a little problem. It's right here, your ETF. 12 hours ago, they've sold. Oh, no, they haven't done it. Oh, we've not seen any activity yet. No real activity on the ETF. Nothing. Nothing's happening. Hold on. But that's your problem. This is MicroStrategy's problem. The ETF. The balance is going up. Okay. That means investors don't even want to get into MicroStrategy because there is a cheaper way of getting involved in Bitcoin. Why are you going to go into a stock that's losing money in terms of earnings per share when you can go into an ETF, pay some fees on your holdings, and know that the backing of it with BlackRock offering it to its investors, okay? And Larry Fink pushing for the idea to get 401k investors to be able to buy Bitcoin, okay? The ETF is the avenue that they're going to go to, all right? That kind of does ruin it for MicroStrategy. And I know there's going to be people that hold MicroStrategy that have been holding MicroStrategy probably from $50, okay? You're just sitting nicely, so it doesn't matter what happens. But you're relying on the idea that MicroStrategy is holding the Bitcoin, okay? And that is it. Fundamentally, you lose money holding this stock. And you're going to hope that the yield they generate off their Bitcoin holdings is going to encourage other investors to get involved in it. That's what will inflate the value of its price. So then if you can eliminate the idea of Bitcoin's value going down, then you're onto a good thing. But that's the case because Bitcoin's value will go down. And it's all about people's perspective of value. All right. So I'm not here to shit on MicroStrategy's parade. I'm just giving you a little bit of a story to help you visualize why this company as a stock fundamentally is dead. But they hold a lot of Bitcoin. And that's what the investor looks at. They got loads of Bitcoin, but their company's terrible. I don't earn anything holding that share. I'll go and buy a convertible bond with MicroStrategy. All right. And the convertible bonds that they offered at that time, it was priced at $340 a share. Okay. They said that you can't do nothing until this price of our stock doubles. You can't do nothing and sell this until the price of our stock doubles. Well, those guys are scratching their head right now. They're like, can't really get rid of it. And if I do, I'm going to pay a redemption and lose money. I've got nothing else to do but hold the stock. That's something you've got to take into consideration. Wow. Bitcoin, what's going on? The stock market behaving itself, as always. Going up. Tino, do you teach how to read order book for stock trading? Order book for stock trading is exactly the same way you read it for any asset, okay? It's faster on the NASDAQ, slower in the stock market or a certain asset because there's not an asset that moves as fast. I mean, Nvidia moves fast. So if you look at the order book for Nvidia, I mean, it gives you massive clues for Nvidia. When you see 500,000 orders on the offer, right? It was when Nvidia was at $142 and there was a $500,000 purchase, 500,000 shares, not dollars, 500,000 shares sat at $44, $144. All right. I looked at that and I says, they're going to go to that. So I started running longs on NASDAQ. And NASDAQ was bouncing up and down. And then all of a sudden, Nvidia starts to climb up. And then NASDAQ starts to climb up. And then bang, they hit that order of $144. I closed off my trade on Nvidia on NASDAQ. That's what I do with the order book. I use order book on the biggest stock in the world, $5 trillion. All right. You're going to want to pay attention to that. Just hold Bitcoin if BlackRock, F MicroStrategy. Okay. And the most important of all, Tino will eventually release his footage of him going to the clubs and finding women buying the unreasonably priced drinks and giving their foreheads a dozy. My bro, what is it about foreheads? I don't get it. Why do you... Anyways, listen, make sure you like, subscribe. We're going to be coming back at around 5:15, 5:45 UK time for the biggest live that this channel has to offer. So I'll be seeing you guys later on. Mad love and respect.